Powered by Red Media in partnership with TSN. It is season 6 of the Ray and Dregs Hockey Podcast, presented by our title sponsor, Tim Hortons. Hey, satisfy your craving for cozy winter comfort with a bit of a fun twist. Why not? The new hot and cold white chocolate pistachio flavored beverages. They've arrived at Tim Hortons. All new to the menu, Ray, includes a white chocolate pistachio latte, white chocolate pistachio iced latte, white chocolate pistachio ice cap, and white chocolate pistachio hot chocolate. A delicious way to stay cozy. And then we've gone through some, I would say it's normal winter weather, even for Southern Ontario. We had a blizzard the last couple of days. Of course, my snowblower broke down about 1/3 of the way into cleaning the driveway. So the white chocolate pistachio hot chocolate, actually, I mean, it's delicious. That I'm going for this time of year. We got a bit
now,
of a
do you still
issue.
Do you still get like your one cookie and thing when you drive through there, or no?
Well, I shouldn't say this because they are our title sponsor. I get now a black coffee, medium black, because I'm trying to, I'm to turn the new page here in 2025.
I gotta say, yesterday to that thing, I got on the scale and I was like, "Oh boy, geez, really?"
Let's get back at it. Yeah.
Yeah, time to maybe.
Yeah, but what does that mean
away.
for a guy like you? Like 3-4 pounds?
Yeah, 4 or 5.
Yeah,
yeah. 5.
Okay.
5.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Well.
So I tried to put my fork down at dessert once in a while. Now that's right. My killer. I just can't do it.
Wow. So just before the turn of the year, coming out of the holidays, stepped on the scale, and I'm 5'10". That's it.
No, you're not.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Easy 5. Maybe 5'10". And no, I'm 5'10". That's what I am.
Okay. Sure.
2
Don't
bills.
tell me. Yeah.
2.
I was going to just in your face. I was like, just Dregs, just in your face. I knew that there was a 2 in there, and it wasn't 192. That's not.
No,
that's.
I'm like, all right. Like, I have been in the 190s before, and I think the last time was like 197, but this one was like 201.
How about when they say like, sometimes your words, well, at least I've been told your words sometimes don't come across as intended. And I told Ryan a few years ago, Rashog, that, things getting away from you a little bit there. And I didn't really intend it for him. Yeah. And so
cut me to the core.
Be his story.
Cut me to the core.
It was just a comment, just trying to help out. And I was like,
hadn't seen you in 5 months. You come walking into the rink, and I go, Ray, how you doing, buddy? You go, you're letting it get away a little, hey, bud?
You're a little early for Halloween. I like your milk bag outfit.
Oops. Well, Drake, so
I
what's
needed
your goal?
To hear it. I needed
What's
to
your goal? Because Ryan's fit and svelte.
Yeah. Well, I've always been stout. Like, even as a young
farm stock.
Yeah, stocky, stout. If I get to 190, 185, 190, I think I'd be happy with that. I'd be fine.
Okay.
But the good news is I have dropped close, I think it's 6.5 pounds. Since,
awesome. That's a good month,
1st.
man. That's a good month. No, it's great. Good for you.
So I do now again, let's just wrap up the Tim Hortons reference. When I go through, I do order a black coffee, but there will be a day in the not too distant future when it's always the smile cookie or the chocolate chunk.
Yeah.
That's always it for me. I see it and it's just like screaming at me off the screen. Yeah. So there will come a day soon. All right. Tim Hortons headlines, Ray. How about Drew Doughty returning to the Los Angeles Kings lineup on Wednesday night, last night? Jim Hiller didn't kind of take the soft approach with him, did? They're chasing in this game. So he threw him out there every opportunity. I think it was just under 24 minutes of time on ice for Drew Doughty. Now, he was -2 at the end, but he was on the ice for the Kachuk empty netter against the Florida Panthers from center ice as well. So we're not going to chastise him entirely. But, I mean, what does that tell you about how badly they need this guy back in the mix and maybe where his health is at, that he's even looked at capable of playing those sort of minutes in his return?
Well, when he fractured his ankle on opening night there, I think he was it might have been in the preseason.
Yeah.
And I just thought, man, they don't have a chance. Like, what a blow to start the season. Your most important defenseman, and then like they've been fantastic. Like that, I think they're one of the pleasant surprises. Brandt Clarke has, they've been touting this guy for a couple of years. They really like him a lot. And now he's the guy that has to come out of the lineup because Doughty's back. And I wonder if there's a way they can get them both in, or, they've sputtered a bit, but it feels like they've been on the road for like 5 months. It really does. I don't know their schedule, but I bet you they got a bunch of home games down the back half of the year.
Right.
Doughty's, this is interesting because it's really hard to come back missing so much. But he's built a little different, right? He's never shy. He's always bold in his play. I do think, like, you got to remember, he's not 27 anymore, right? It's it takes time, and I think teams, people, I think remember somebody and then they think that's who they are, but really they're today's version. So I think they got to be careful with Doughty a little bit, but man, the guy's a hell of a player, and he gives spirit and backbone to a team when he's in there.
I mean, and bubbles with personality, right? He's a throwback in the sense, he's a star player for sure in the National Hockey League, has been that for a long, long time. Clearly a really good leader, but isn't afraid to embrace the media either. Like,
he's funny, man.
He listens to the question, whether he likes it or not, he'll answer it. But if he doesn't like it, he's not afraid to joust a little bit if necessary, and hold the reporter accountable. If you're not being fair or you're not accurate, well, that's fine. Let's have a conversation about that. I got all the time in the world. And so that now takes us to the Four Nations face-off. And so the Minnesota Wild in Toronto, Billy Guerin and the Minnesota Wild, of course, he's going to take the opportunity to meet with Austin Matthews and Brad Treliving, just get a health update on how Matthews is feeling with Team USA and the Four Nations looming. So now back to Drew and Team Canada. They need a replacement for Alex Pietrangelo. And, there are a handful of qualified guys for sure, depending on the role that you're talking about. If you're talking about a penalty killing guy who's a real good defender, but maybe can provide that flair of offense as well. I mean, for me, Drew Doughty's number one on that list. They're not going to disclose that. Who would be top of your list of Pietrangelo replacements?
Well, again, it depends on what they're looking for. Like, I think he was a bit of an outsider to the whole thing, but I had Chris Tanev on my team when I was picking it. It's an NHL tournament. It's only NHL guys. Chris Tanev defends as well as you would like in a tournament. I think I just think he's a really, really good player. And so I would have him high. Mackenzie Weegar, if you're looking for a little bit more offense, perhaps. And of course, we're talking about right-handed guys exclusively. I wouldn't have Evan Bouchard in this conversation for this point. So to me, it would be one of those three, Doughty, Weegar, Tanev. And, I was in Vegas the other day for the Dallas game, and man, Aiden Hill is fighting the puck. Like, he made some saves that he ended up without a stick. He ended up on his nose. He was like, and I'm like, oh boy, you make your choices 2 months ago. And I bet you they would probably look at Logan Thompson today, right? The guy's got 23 wins, but it's Binnington, it's Hill, right? Like, that's in Montembeault, that's your goalies. So I think this is an important pick because they have to protect their goalies. The U.S. does not. The U.S. does not. The U.S. is of their strengths is the goaltending position. For Canada, it's not. And I think this selection is pretty critical.
Okay, you did that game, Vegas and Dallas. So let's clear something up here, right? Because, I heard your reaction to Mark Stone going into Miro Heiskanen. Obviously, Pete DeBoer not happy about it, thought it should have been a major penalty. Nothing has come of it. It was suggested to me, and I didn't watch it close enough, that Roope Hintz tripped, not intentionally, whatever, but that was the slingshot, the catapult effect that sent Mark Stone sprawling, diving forward. He's swiping, reaching for the puck, and the unintended consequence is he makes clear and full contact with Heiskanen's knee. What version of that did you see?
Well, live, my version was, what are you doing, man? Like, what kind of play is that? And we showed the replay a couple times, and my producer says we got a look that Hintz trips him up. And so Hintz gets his stick between Stone's feet, and then when he trips, he kind of toe picks at the same time. And so I had of course, my mentions were all over the board, and somebody said, "Oh, I need a physics major. How come you trip and you go forward?" Well, if you've been on the ice, when you trip, you do go forward. Like you're going north, you get tripped by somebody going south, you continue north. And so he was diving to poke the puck away, which I still don't get. Because say you poke the puck away, you're now on your face. Like, what good are you to the play? Nothing. So I didn't understand the play. I don't think it's anything more than the minor penalty. It did not look good for Heiskanen. Not good. Did not look good at all. And so no matter what the penalty was going to be, Dallas must have their fingers crossed here that somehow Heiskanen escapes some kind of injury. And we're back to the Four Nations again, Dregs. If we're right, so here's the other thing. As Gord was talking about earlier in the week, Gord Miller. So they have NHL players only in this. So the Finns are, you only have a few defensemen that you could pick from. They might think about somebody from home, but they can't.
No.
And so that puts them on the back foot a little bit here to replace almost for them an irreplaceable guy.
Vancouver Canucks are 3 straight wins now. So they slipped past the Calgary Flames into a wild card spot in the West. Some good things happening now with this team. And, let's not get over the top here and suggest the dark cloud is being pushed away. Inch by inch. We talked about this on Tuesday. Inch by inch. It does appear things are getting better.
Dregs, hang on. You've been to Vancouver in November, right?
Yeah, that dark cloud never goes away.
It's just there, right? Like you can shove it a little bit, but it's nothing changes, right? Like so go ahead. Yeah, I just thought I'd point that out.
Yeah, I get it. On ice, though, you do have some bright spots to look back on. And maybe it's just specific to last night's game, but let's give credit where credit is due. So Thatcher Demko makes 31 saves. Whew. Did they need that from him in that win last night? And I don't think this guy, coast to coast, gets enough credit. And that's Quinn Hughes. And what is that, his 3rd straight multi-point game? Amid all the turmoil and the on-ice, off-ice nonsense around this club is the fact that there are some really good stories. So if they can continue to string some wins together here, maybe some of the bad stuff just kind of gets parked for a while.
Well, they were, I think I said a week ago, whatever, that they are this month's version of the Rangers. Like the Rangers were 4-15 going into the new year. And then they went 7-0-3 out of the break, out of the calendar flip. And so the Canucks are certainly capable of putting together a much better run of play, a more consistent run of play than they've had. They've had a miserable 6 weeks. The season has been up and down and up and down. The one constant is Quinn Hughes. And for people that don't see him enough, I don't think they can understand like what he does for this team. Like he is A, he's in the Norris conversation. B, he has to be in the Hart conversation. Like
Has
if
to
it's
be.
the most
Yeah.
if it's the most valuable to your team,
Yeah.
you take Quinn Hughes away from the Canucks, and you're not looking at anything similar. He's played just, I think, 401 or 2 games, something like that. Dregs, he's got multi-points in 25% of the games.
Bonkers. Yeah.
It's crazy what he does. He is a brilliant player, and sometimes the city just gets lucky. Like Edmonton has just been lucky to watch McDavid and Gretzky in their careers. Just lucky that they happen to be there. Vancouver should feel lucky to watch Quinn Hughes. Like Colorado, how lucky are they in Denver to watch Cale Makar and Nate McKinnon? Right? You're just lucky that they happen to be there. They could be somewhere else, but they're in your spot. And man, I love watching Quinn play. He's fun too, right? Like it looks like people chasing a rabbit chasing a carrot when the forwards are trying to catch him. Like it's like he does it for fun, and like they just can't get them. And it's really, really impressive to watch.
Little credit to JT Miller. I mean, this guy continues to just stand in there, right? Like, one of the leaders of the group, a focal point in what has been, again, just such a tumultuous season for him, for Pettersson, for the Canucks across the board, for the market, all of that. So Jimmy Rutherford comes out publicly this week. I had a long conversation with Jimmy on Tuesday. Subsequently, he does the piece with Gary Mason, right, in the Globe and Mail. Very candid in talking about everything that the organization has been through to this point. So obviously the local media is going to follow up on that with JT. They've got to ask him. I mean, hey, whether you saw the comments or not, we assume you did, how do you respond to that? What do you make of what Jim Rutherford said? And Frank, I'm not sure what Miller was expected to say. I think my opinion as a media guy who's been in the scrums and all of that, I thought he handled it as respectfully as he could. And that was just simply no comment. Because what else is he going to say, without trying to go after his president, which he's not going to do. And he probably has reached this point where he's like, I'm just not going to say anything anymore. I'm just not going to say anything about anything anymore.
There's no matter what he would have said, the next X number of days would have been about, well, what do you think he really meant? Did he mean this? Did he, everybody trying to decipher what the words mean. I don't know. I mean, whomever asked had to ask, and they should, and you could follow it up 43 different ways. And the only response was going to be, I'm not going to comment about it. Yeah. Look, you've known Jim a lot longer than I have. He doesn't say things off the cuff.
No,
he doesn't. And he doesn't bluster. Like when he's got something to say, he just comes out and says it. And so of course, this was a grenade into the Vancouver market again. And what I found interesting is that, and I've told you this before, Dregs, one of my favorite movies is A Few Good Men. I just think it's an amazing movie. And so when Cruz has got Nicholson on the stand and he says, and Nicholson says, you want the truth, you can't handle the truth. People in Vancouver, fans and media have been complaining for months about not hearing what's exactly going on. Why aren't they being more transparent? Couldn't have been more transparent. And now everybody is pissed off again. Like, what do you want? Do you want none, or do you want it all? Or do you want just your version of it? It's not good. Whatever's happened has not been good. And it's part of the major picture of this up and down season in Vancouver. And I don't know why he did the interview, like why he chose now, but pretty clearly it was like, okay, this is where we're at. Yeah. This is what we're looking at. This is what we've tried to do. And now we got to fix it. And it might be today or it might be in the off season. And I think there's a lot of things said in that interview if you listen to it or read it all, other than just the headline. Like he says quite a few things in there that are pretty important, I believe.
What do you make of the Brandon Saad situation? No, this does not happen very often. 32-year-old hockey player under contract this year and next year. I believe the cap hit is like $4.5 million, right?
Right.
So, you know, there had been some investigating into whether or not there was a trade market for Brandon. Apparently there wasn't. So rather than go down to the American League, he agrees to a contract termination. So he has to clear waivers again to allow for the contract termination. He'll clear on Friday. We're recording this on Thursday. How many players are willing to bet on themselves to a point where you just don't like the situation that you're in? Clearly, that's Brandon's position with his time in St. Louis. So you're just going to dump all that money aside and face the uncertainty of, okay, there is going to be interest. We know there's interest in Brandon Saad. He's going to get signed as a free agent by a team, no doubt about that. Probably a really good team. Maybe for the rest of this season, that makes more sense. Maybe he's fortunate. His team goes deep. Maybe he wins the Stanley Cup. Maybe he resets his value as a free agent in the summer. I don't know. But this thing is curious. Were you surprised at all, or not really, that it ends up in contract termination?
Well, I think he's. I'd like to be in his spot that I could walk away from about $7 million, right? Like, and just go, yeah. So it's the half of the salary pretty much this year and all of next year. You have to think he would have been a buyout candidate in the summer, so he would have been he would have gotten 2/3 of 4.5, whatever that is, paid out over 2 years. That would have been the buyout. So it's not really 4.5 he's losing next year. He's losing 2/3 of 4.5.
And in fairness, I think it's less than that because of how the salary breaks down. So the 4.5 is the cap hit. So the money may be a little bit less than that. I think it's around 5 and change. Yeah.
5 and change total.
Yeah,
Breaks,
I believe so. Yeah.
Okay, so that's the real number he's walking away from. I don't think he's walking away into the abyss. I think he's probably got a pretty good idea that he's got a couple of teams that are going to be interested, that he's going to be able to sign. You got to think it would be a relatively inexpensive contract for the rest of the year. So he'll earn back a little bit, right?
Yeah.
The American League at 32 years old is not, when you've never been in it, is not a place you want to be. It's hard, and the guys are young and they're rambunctious and they're trying to prove something, and you would be there to collect money. And I think that would be a pretty lousy place to be too.
Yeah, I'm with you. And in the long run, I think it's going to work out for Saad, provided he takes responsibility for the parts of his game that need to be better. I mean,
he's got to engage in the game, man.
Yeah,
like what, I think I said this about Doughty earlier, is like, you remember Brandon Saad, at least I do, as like a 30-goal guy from Chicago. That's a long time ago. Like, that's not the same player that he's been this year.
Yeah. And we can conjure up the contending teams that'll show interest, because there's no asset going out. If you have a roster spot or can quickly create one, all you're talking about is money, right? And if it is a short term, the remainder of this year, and you're a stepping stone potentially for Saad, sure. Like, I guarantee you that Toronto will consider it because of the history with Craig Berube and Brandon Saad. They believe he still has game. He can skate and he can score, and Toronto won't be alone there. But just fascinating when you've got a player with that amount of money still owning. He just goes, I want out and I'm willing to just terminate my deal. It doesn't happen very often, which is headline worthy. Okay, Ryan Rishaug is chewing. He wants to get in because we've got Ask Ray and Dregs anything coming up here. How about Sid Crosby? Clearly, the Pittsburgh Penguins outside looking in. They've got ground to make up to get into that playoff mix again. It's not unattainable, but there's a lot of work to get done. I don't know if it's fair to call it a vintage overtime winner by Sid, but just again, just a clear exhibit of his talent level, his passion, everything about him wanting to drag this team back into the mix. Like, it's not over until that buzzer rings in game 82. I mean, that's what I see when I see goals like we saw last night to win it.
There's not many times you get to have a shift of 2 seconds and you score and the game's over, which, like, he jumped on the ice, he came straight down the gut or down the left wing. It looked, I mean, not the same play, the same, the same aura to the play, but it kind of looked when he came off the wing there a little bit like the Olympic goal.
It did a little bit.
Like he came flying off the corner. He just didn't yell for a Ginla. And, he goes to the back, this time he goes to the backhand, but just the angle of it made me think of that when I saw it the first time. And,
me too.
He's, I'm in Seattle today, and we've got San Jose here. So I'm going to, Macklin Celebrini's going to play. First time I'm going to see him live. And he reminds me so much of a young Sid, like the same style, the same attention to the full ice of the game. Very rare for an 18-year-old. And Sid was just in here the other day, and they did an interview with him about Celebrini, and he told him, just enjoy it. Like, you're going to lose a lot early here, but keep enjoying it. And one of the things I see with Celebrini that I love is that, like, there's a real enthusiasm and joy that he plays with. And I thought it was pretty interesting that Sid saw enough to talk about him in the way he did.
No kidding. Well, I hope you have a beauty tonight. And chances are there's going to be a handful of plays where you're searching for words to explain what Celebrini just did, because he's got that kind of edge of the seat capability. No doubt about that. All right. Those are your headlines. Thank you to Tim Hortons.
Tim's new white chocolate pistachio latte is here to mix up your day. Freshly ground espresso beans topped with Belgian white chocolate curls with a delicious pistachio flavor. Order the hot or iced white chocolate pistachio lattes on the Tim's app today.
It's time for Tim's.
Ask Ray and Dregs anything. You can send us your questions on X, Instagram at Ray and Dregs, or on the website, rayanddregs.com. Or Ask Ray and Dregs is brought to you by Acon. Acon is a North American construction leader and proud to be one of Canada's original industrial contractors. If you're a skilled tradesperson or construction pro looking for work in Western Canada, Acon wants to hear from you. They're looking for skilled tradespeople and construction professionals to join the Acon team and start building what matters today. Join Acon by sending your resume to trades@acon.com. TSN's Ryan Rashog. You can always tell when he's got like a morning skate or a practice that he's got to really get to in a hurry on Tuesdays and Thursdays, because he's got the dress shirt on, right? He's
Working
ready.
reporter here, Dregs.
Hasn't
Working
shaved
reporter
yet
here,
today.
not
That's
just
okay.
a studio jockey. Not a studio jockey here, bud.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right.
No,
You're not gonna take that?
he did.
Nothing.
He did shave today, like 12 minutes ago.
With a butter
And it's-
knife? Like what?
Yeah, well, look at that thing. Yeah,
As I said guys.
There's a reason that he leaves it half unshaven. Ryan, why is that?
Yes. I'll tell you why. So my stylist, and yes, we have those here in Alberta.
Oh, say
But
hi.
hang on,
to
you go to a stylist?
It's a loose term. She suggested that by having a little bit of something to look at here, then it deflects attention from all of this situation happening up here. So just kind of balance it out a little bit. If this is just
I'd like you to pass
clean,
a note to her. I'd like to pass a note to her for, if you could, that her
Ray,
her advice is
careful now.
really is no her
Hey,
advice is
careful,
missing
Ray.
the mark. It's missing.
How old
I
is
know.
the
I don't.
stylist? How old?
What's that?
20s?
74.
30s? How old
No,
is the
74. She's got a bad hip.
32?
Okay, well, 32.
74.
So then she's
Yeah.
the 32-year-old stylist is too young to remember drive-in theaters, because that's what you've got for a forehead, bud.
Lots of great submissions on Ask Ray and Dregs this week as we move along, gentlemen. A couple different ones to get to here. We got a big fan of the Washington Capitals here. Says, good morning, Ray and Dregs. Love the pod. Been listening since day one. I was wondering, with Washington shocking everyone this year, but me, I'm a delusional fan. Could you see Ryan Leonard or Cole Hudson around playoff time? Also, with Logan Thompson signed, can we expect Jacob Chychrun to be next? Side note, Washington is still disrespected around the league. I haven't heard one word on Jacob Chychrun joining Team Canada. So big Caps fan wants some accountability and some conversation about his team, Ray.
Okay, so Ryan Leonard, yes, absolutely. I think, I mean, I don't know this, but I can't imagine they can get him to Washington fast enough. I mean, he's such an impressive kid. He looks like the type of kid you could bring in and play in an NHL April game, like, which, as we know, is far different than the November game, right? Like, just the way he's built in his game, he fits. Hudson, not so much for me. That would be an enormous jump for him to make. The other part of this too is, unless it can be somebody that makes a bit of an impact, you're probably not messing with a lineup that's first overall in the league too much, because there's always danger in that too. As far as Chychrun, he's looked for a home for a while. I think, even when he was in Arizona and then to Ottawa, it never quite seemed to be right for him for the last couple of years. And it looks right, Dregs. It looks right. I mean, I think they're the only team in the league that uses two defensemen on the power play, on their first power play. And Chychrun plays the half wall. And I'm like, man, I never even thought of that. But both him and John Carlson are out there, and it looks strange to see 2D out there, but they've been thrilled with him. As for Team Canada, I just don't think he was in that. I don't think he was in that mix. You can be a very good player and not be in that mix. I could be wrong on that, but Dregs?
No, I'm with you 100% on that. And that's not being disrespectful to Jake
He's had a great year.
I mean, all it is motivating, right? The fact we're having this conversation and Caps fans are acknowledging that. I mean, there are steps in this plan that could fit with Chychrun. I mean, you've got the World Championships down the road. Maybe he plays his way towards the Olympics, the World Cups, all of that. I mean, this is a stepping stone for him. And I think that's part of the process of extending his time in Washington as well. I mean, there's an appetite with the Caps for sure, and there definitely would be with Chychrun, but it's a process. And I don't buy for a second that Washington isn't being given credit for what they've accomplished this year. I don't. I mean, I know national media pays attention to it. Ray, how many conversations have you had this year, locally and nationally, on the Washington Capitals? Are they a surprise team? Yup, 100%. But they're the real deal. We can see that.
Well, last year they had 91 points. And they got 71. May have had 94, but they got 71 points right now. Like they're having an amazing year.
Yeah, and not a lot of people picking them, I think, in the preseason to do a lot. So the fact that they are where they are has Caps fans going, hey, as this last one did. Okay, next one. Interesting one for you here, Ray. And I think people wonder about this. So if you don't mind, pull back the curtain a little bit. With all the noise around the Vancouver Canucks and Cammi working in the team's front office, I'm curious, how often do you two talk about the goings-on of the Vancouver Canucks? Does she ever ask your thoughts or opinions on anything Canucks related? Does she ever ask you about something you say on a podcast or a broadcast? Or is there a mutual agreement that you tend not to discuss these topics on your personal time? Thanks, guys. Love the show. This is Chris from Cranbrook, not far from Ray's old stomping grounds of Trail. Not to get too personal, Ray, but I think people are interested in that dynamic that happens.
Well, to say we never talk about the team would be a lie. Of course we do. I mean, it's our job. It's my job. It's a curious mix for sure. When she took the job, she said, just so you know, like, and Dregs, you've come into this discussion before, is that she said, I can't and won't tell you anything because you'll be tempted to tell Dregs. And then I said, well, I wouldn't, but yes, you're right. I would be tempted if it was something really kind of interesting. So she, we've been married for 20 years. I think she's got a pretty good idea what I'm about by this point. And it makes it much easier to not discuss much at all. We discussed, like last night we discussed about the game, that Demko was really good to see Linus Karlsson get his first goal. She talked about why she likes him as a player, because he's strong and he's around the front of the net. But we're not getting into like the Miller Pettersson stuff. Never. Like that, like nothing. I have no idea other than what I hear from people that I talk to, but it's not her. It's just not. Stuff happens. This is my favorite story. I think, I don't know if I've told it before. Sure I have. The Rangers in Washington were playing, and I'm doing the game, and it was in Washington, and the trainer for the Rangers, who I know, leaned through the glass, like one of the guys working on the bench, and he goes, "Hey, we just traded Kravtsov." And I said, "Where?" And he said, "Vancouver." So I text Cammi and I go, "Kravtsov," with a question mark. And she wrote back, "Yeah, what about him?" Like, she wouldn't even tell me then. I knew it. The Rangers told me. And so anyway, that's about how much we really discuss it.
And you've learned not to pry, hey, Dregs? Like, there's just nothing coming.
No, I mean, I don't want to put guys like that in a spot where, because it gets real awkward in a hurry, because Ray is, does he want to tell me to buzz off? Sure, would I deserve it? But in this case, nah, it's not worth it.
Buzz off. That's such a trigger for me with you saying buzz off. Even you're just using it casually like that, it just makes my skin crawl, because for 20 years, that's been his thing. Hey, Ray, like when you get the buzz off from Dregs, you're just like, my blood boils. My big brother being a jerk to me or something.
Buzz off. I've had enough of you right now. Go away.
I don't like that. All right, last one here. This one for both of you guys, asking worst roommate. And we'll extend this, not necessarily roommate, because not often you're staying in a room with a guy. We'll say travel mate. Who is your worst travel mate you had over your career, anywhere from junior to broadcasting? This is Herbie, a loyal listener from Halifax. Now, we're not looking for you to throw anybody too far under the bus, but just quirks, interesting things. Dregs, maybe a travel mate who every time you go through security, you sense he's just getting super tense and his blood is boiling and he's going to have a crappy next 45 minutes. Don't know if you used to know anyone like that, Dregs, or not.
Yeah, well, no. Okay, so let me jump here quick, because Ray's probably got 1,000 of these stories. I've got one. I was on, I guess it was a provincial curling team in Saskatchewan. And my buddy Claire, who was the third, I was at the second or the lead. I can't remember whatever it was. Anyway, he goes into the washroom. We're all four guys staying in the same room. Couldn't afford not to. So we're staying in the same room wherever we were. I go into the washroom next, and it says in toothpaste on the mirror, "Darren is an a-hole." Well, I'm not paying attention who was in the bathroom before I went in there, right? So anyway, now we get into an argument inside the room, the four of us, as to who wrote it. And I'm getting, like, no one is owning it. And it's not even what's written. It's just I'm getting steamed because nobody is owning it. And me and another teammate, Kevin Tomsha, were literally fighting because I thought it was him, and like throwing punches, fighting in the room. And then finally my buddy Claire goes, "God, it was me, okay? It was me." So, it's a good one.
That's Knuckles good. Get chucked.
Yeah, that was good. Like, let you guys fight it out, and then he's like, I should stop this.
I was like,
by the way,
that was a good prank.
Okay, so I've got, of many road stories, which, like, just in this topic, that are just so good. The first name that came to mind immediately was Kevin Dineen. One of the great all-time guys. Like, honestly, one of the best. Love the guy. Just fantastic. An absolute 100% slob. Like, you cannot believe what he's like. To the point where you would eat pregame meal next to him, with the big round tables in the buffet room, and guys would put their napkin on their own shoulder on the side that Kevin was eating on. It was a hurricane coming off of him. Like, his room, like his bag always had like clothes kind of hanging out of it, like with the zipper, like out the zipper, like a tie would be hanging out of it. It was really something to see, to believe. He would this has nothing to do with travel, but once a year or so, he'd put his jersey on backwards and go out for warm up, and you'd be like, huh? And the guys would be like, don't tell him. And he'd go out and he'd have 11 Deneen across the front of his chest, and you'd be like, Jesus, Kevin. But this is not a roommate as per 3 guys. My last year in Atlanta, we're shockingly out of the playoffs, so we go for lunch. We're in Long Island. And so we go to lunch at this place, and we've had a few with lunch. Lunch has now turned into dinner. It's now pretty late. So Jeff Odgers, Chris Tamer, Sean Donovan, and I are eating lunch. Dinner. Few. Get back to my room, and I walk in, and my room is 1,000 degrees. It's on the equator. And I'm like, what the? It's so hot in here. And so I walk in, everything in the room, just picture a hotel room, everything in it is stacked on the bed. Everything. The dresser, the lamp, the shower curtain from the bathroom, like everything is on the bed. It's like 10 feet high. And so I'm like, this is ridiculous. So I go into the bathroom. There is nothing in it. Nothing. Not a bar of soap, not a towel, nothing.
Love
and
it.
so I'm like, these freaking idiots. So I flush the toilet, and the little plastic tube that goes into the bigger tube, they've propped it. It shoots water straight across the room. Like if I had sat down, it would have hit me right in the back. I am freaking furious. Now I got to go find somebody to help me get all this stuff off my bed. And I'm sweating. And of course, they're like, oh, it wasn't me. Kind of like your fight, Dregs. Nobody did it. But these 3 idiots, I know they did it.
Oh,
it was.
Love it.
Okay, so hold on. So Holly just corrected me. She heard me tell this story, and I screwed it up a little bit. So I said it was Claire who wrote it in toothpaste, but he used himself. That's right. It wasn't directed at me. He said Claire is an a-hole. He wrote that on the mirror. So now me
and you
and
got
my
blamed.
teammates- Well, yeah. Now he comes out of the
that's-
bathroom and he's like, "Which one of you, guys, did this?"
That's devious.
That's so good. So hey, hat tip to Holly for correcting me, fact checking. I had to get
That's
that
next
right.
level devious.
Yeah.
Love it.
That's good by Claire. Good work.
Yeah. Quick travel story. Not that he's a bad travel mate, but guys, I spent years on the road with Pierre Maguire, our friend Pierre Maguire. And so we're going through an airport. It was a long day, flight delayed, lots of frustration happening, late nights, all that kind of stuff. And you kind of sense the tension is kind of like, it's going up a little bit here. And we're checking in. We're ready to go through this security line. And there's this guy I see off to the side, and he's looking at Pierre. And I know he recognizes him, and this guy is just, you can tell he's just fidgeting, and he wants to talk to him, and he's just waiting for the opportunity, and McGuire's getting the full Monty from security, and I'm watching this situation happen, and I'm like, this is going to be so good. This is going to be so good. Pierre generally tries to be good with people, but you could tell he was maxed. So finally he clears, he's gathering his stuff, he's putting his belt on. This guy walks up to him, and he goes, Darren Pang!
Oh.
I was howling, absolutely howling. Pierre did surprisingly well with the situation, but it was one of my more memorable travel moments. That was Ask Ray and Dregs Anything, brought to you by our good friends over at Panger. It's Panger.
All right, Ryan. Thank you. Oh boy.
Thanks, Ryan. Thanks, man. Have a good one.
Yeah,
you know,
it's good.
We've done Ask Ray and Dregs for years. We really have, right? I mean, I don't know if we did it in season 1 of the Ray and Dregs hockey podcast, but probably for 5 years. I guess it was Ryan's idea because, he always wants to insert himself. Like more FaceTime for Ryan is that's his ultimate goal. But hey, I'm willing to admit when something is on, and this is a good ad this year. We have some chuckles when we bring them into the
this stuff, honestly, though, like the travel stories, the stuff that, TV is full of waiting around and doing nothing until your time. And that's when actually all the good stuff happens. Like there's nothing to do. One of my favorite things ever at TSN, of course, Dregs, you were sitting 3 feet from me, is when we're doing the trade show and we get our burgers out and O-Dog is there ketchup on that? Like, it's a nothing thing, but it's a nothing thing, except none of us could even think straight for the next hour. It was, and Doughty going, oh, your mic's on. Like, it was the best. It was the best.
It's so good.
Yeah.
All right, Seattle tonight, and then your travel isn't done, is it?
Yeah. No, I'm on the bird tomorrow to Boston. Rangers in Boston is our the start of our ABC games on Saturday afternoon, and then turn around and go back home. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to seeing Celebrini tonight, and so a couple good ones. What do you got to bring out the end?
Yeah, we've got insider trading over the course of today, and really just getting ready for the upcoming Four Nations prep work there. Slew of injuries, as we kind of talked about earlier. Yeah. Just following some of that stuff, but no real heavy lifting. Outside of searching for trades, and I'm going to say this again because it seems to be good karma, good luck. Outside of searching for big trades that don't want to happen. I said that last week, and then Mikko Rantanen got traded to the Carolina.
Oh, way to go. The old reverse. I like it.
So I learned from Claire very, very well back in the day.
Yes. Claire had it figured out, didn't he? Well, enjoy the rest of the week. Thanks for listening, everyone. Dregs, have a good weekend. Get your snowblower fixed, would you?
Ooh, I need to. All right, Ray. Thank you. And thank you to our sponsors who continue to support the Ray and Dregs Hockey Podcast, make it possible. Our title sponsor, Tim Hortons, and thank you to our friends at Acon. Until next time, early next week, stay safe, everybody.